Lots of good stuff happening in the Forex today. We've covered pretty thoroughly, I think, what's going on in the commodity currencies in the podcast. So let's talk about something that I think a lot of traders may not be paying a lot of attention to, or may not understand what this is. The meeting of the G8 is happening this week, and in fact, has already commenced. Now, what exactly is this? I think the origins of this thing is very interesting, and it's very relevant to forex traders to understand who these are and what these meetings are all about. Now, the G8, those represent the 8 economies that are involved in this informal meeting. It has no offices. It has no permanent place to be. It is quote unquote a fairly informal thing. It's all northern hemispheric economies. Notable exclusions are China, but Japan is included. The United States is included. Canada is included. Then you have the UK. You get France, Italy, and it's technically should be the G9 because the EU is also included. Russia is in there. So we have this conglomeration of economies that are getting together to discuss what's going on in the global economy. And what's interesting about this is that for two things. First is what's the heritage of this entity? Well, it all started back in '73. Now, so 1973 we had a price shock from high oil prices. There was, for those of you who remember, it was pretty dramatic what was going on in 1973. And this group of economies got together. They later formed the G6 a couple of years later, which was then later expanded to the G7, then the G7 plus one, now the G8 plus kind of a half of one if you include the EU. And they were brought together to try to deal with this problem. What is the problem that they have been dealing with from an economic perspective over the last few years? Now, I'm going to give you about one guess to determine what that is. Right, the falling dollar. So let's think about this. So does the G8 have an influence on what's going on with the dollar? I think that they do. Now, they are not powerful enough, or the economy is too complex to be able to solve the falling dollar's problems in one meeting. However, this meeting has a very interesting correlation with the value of the dollar itself. So let's take a look at a chart. What started happening in 2002? So I've brought up a chart. This is the US dollar index. So it's the dollar versus a basket of currencies. When it's going up, the dollar is getting stronger. When it's going down, the dollar is getting weaker. What happened in 2002 is that to ward off further recession and problems in the US economy, the Fed did a number of things, one of which was, of course, devalue the dollar fairly significantly. And in fact, you can see over here on the far left-hand side of the chart this big drop down in the value of the dollar. Subsequently, I put a little arrow to the G8 meeting. And subsequently, we get these over and over again following the G8 meetings. These are the these little blue arrows are the G8 meetings for each year. Subsequent to these meetings, we get some price stability in the dollar for a period of anywhere from about 2 months to 8 months, in that range. But you'll notice that the G8 meetings they're coinciding overall. Last year was a bit of an exception, but not too much of an exception, with a big decline in the dollar, and then we get this price stability. So over and over again, following the G8 meeting, we get a little bit of price stability on the dollar, or even an incline. So we see that in 2005, 2003, 2002. We get a lot of stability in 2006, and we even got a little bump up for a few weeks in 2007. So we're going over to 2008. The meeting is happening right now, and what are we expecting to happen to the dollar? We've already seen the dollar gaining against a basket of other currencies over the last few months, and the question we have to ask ourselves is, well, in this meeting, are we going to see that trend continue? What's the likelihood? What's the correlation in the past? Have they been effective, at least over the short term, in being able to support the dollar? I think that right now the takeaway here is there is a very high probability that we're going to be looking at a stronger or stable dollar in the short term. that's information that we can use for the trend, particularly as we look at things like the commodity currencies, as we look at where is the euro going in the short term. I think this is a relevant question on the euro, as I know a lot of traders were taking this breakout that occurred here a couple of weeks ago and have been beat up a little bit starting last week. But the question is, well, are we going to hit this support level and bounce off and head back up? Or are we looking at a much larger correction to the downside? This is an alert to me that we need to be aware of what the risks are to the current trend. This matters to the euro. It matters to most of the forex currency pairs. To the euro, we could even take a look at what's going on with the yen right now. Are we going to finally see the yen break up above this 108.25 range? So are we going to see the yen at 109, 110, 111? These are some of those questions that a stronger dollar may answer, or a trend towards a stronger dollar in the short term over the next few months, as that may be where the market is headed. Following any kind of a concerted effort by the G8 to try to support the dollar, that could definitely be where it's going, and that obviously is going to affect our trading outlooks. So I'm going to end this video with an open-ended question. I would love to get some feedback from those of you out there. My opinion is that the G8 are going to come out with some, besides the standard altruistic comments about helping poverty in Africa and these sorts of things. I think they're also going to make some statements about supporting the dollar. I think that these major economies, it's in their interest to support the dollar, at least in the short term, to try to work our way out of this economic slowness that's spreading around the globe. So from the U.S., and as a result, we're going to see a dollar become a little bit stronger over the next few months, or continue to get stronger over the next few months. I would love to know what other traders think. What's your outlook? Do you think that these other economies are going to be motivated to want to support the dollar? And if so, how effective are they going to be? How much weight are you putting onto that kind of an analysis as you look for trades in the intermediate term or even the long term?